Well, it's a great pleasure to have everybody on today, and we have Melissa Gates Perry, who's going to be speaking to us with Aralamb, who is her spirit guide. But let me just do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. And so there are some of you here in person, and there are many of you joining us online. So just know that this is being recorded. We do encourage you to ask questions because the bulk of the time during the next couple of hours is going to be for you to have an opportunity to ask Aralamb through Melissa many questions. And so please be ready to do that. But what we're going to do first is I just want to make sure that everybody who doesn't want to show up on camera asking their question in real time, if you really want to protect your identity, privacy, make sure that your camera is off. But if you're wanting to ask a question, please ask it through the chat and I will pick it up. Those of you who are here, we have some pads. Please write your question, or you can actually come to the microphone and ask it yourself directly. So we just want to make sure, because this is being recorded, that everybody is comfortable being on camera and that they know what's going to happen next. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest of honor today, and it is Melissa Gates Perry and Aralamb, her spirit guide. I just want to say that about 18 months ago, I came across Melissa and Aralamb on YouTube, and I was absolutely blown away. And so I wondered if I could even get you to come and speak to the group. Remote sort of dream, but I was able to get you online, and you were very gracious and immediately accepted. So we thank you greatly for that. And we're so excited because you're actually the first channel, as it were, that we've actually had in our group. We tend to experiences, so we're just switching it out a little bit, just because everything that you're going to be sharing today is just fascinating. So thank you very much for that. I do have a quick question off the bat, because every time I've seen you on YouTube, you're always in this space, and I'm wondering what the pictures are behind you. I mean, what are those? They're kind of fascinating looking. What's the lady with
the one
Yeah.
I guess my figure's on. My son painted that for me. He painted that for me, and so I put it in here because it's like I don't know, I liked it there. This one, the lady with the wings, that's an old antique one. That's a very old one. And then there are I'm sort of pointing here, but this is the flowers are very old too, and I just love them. My house is absolutely full of things. Meaning old things, new things, secondhand things. I'm just a kind of a collector. And you have beautiful art there behind you as well. So, but yeah, people often talk to me, and my walls are different colors because I love to paint and all of that. So yeah. And also, I was going to say that you just said about me coming here today with Aralamb, the idea that the International Association of Near-Death Experiencers, that's sort of what you are. And even if you haven't had a near-death experience, the idea that you're interested in that. Well, the really interesting thing for me, and I'll just say this before I even talk about kind of who I am or how I met Aralamb. I come into my office here when I'm going to do one-on-one sessions or a group sort of thing like this. And for me, and this is going to be interesting for all of you, for me, this is always how it's been. I come in, I sit down or I stand, because I don't have to be here. I could be anywhere. And in my mind's eye, I open my energetic doors to the right of me. That's always how it's been for me. People say, well, why on the right, not on the left? I don't know. For me, physically, it's always been to the right. Aralamb is always standing here next to me, and he sort of looks like a tall 80-year-old retired college professor, but he's always been to the right of me. And where he is standing, I refer to it, and if any of you have read any of my book or maybe listened to it online, because I'm reading it for free into YouTube, but I refer to this opening as the lobby. Now, Aralamb calls it the 89th level of creation. But where you're all concerned, what's so interesting about this is that where I'm connecting to, and this is the only place that I connect to, I don't connect to other realms or any of that. The 89th level of creation, this is where every soul incarnates from, and it's where every soul travels back to. So when a near-death experiencer is talking about sort of the tunnel, right, or however it is that you move toward the place, you realize you've left your body, you're moving toward the place, this is exactly where I'm connecting to. And from a scientific standpoint, even more interestingly, is that I can sort of put my arm into this energetic place that Aralamb is standing, but he'll only allow me to do that sort of up to my elbow, because he doesn't want me to sort of get magnetized into this arena, which would be where you go when you have a near-death experience. So it's very, very interesting because the work that Aralamb does and much of what he talks about, the life cycle of the soul, it absolutely deals with where people are going in real time and scientifically as well, spiritually, scientifically, where someone's soul goes when you have a near-death experience. It's just that you're having almost a death experience, but you come back, right? So you're not staying. But this is where Aralamb is in that 89th level of creation. And it's where every one of us return back to over and over and over. Even if you're going to go to some other planet, it doesn't have to be incarnating onto Earth. It can be incarnating to anywhere. So that is actually, Aralamb's work is actually incredibly pertinent to that near-death experience phenomenon. And when I say phenomenon, it's actually the most natural thing in the world. So that being said, my history is, and I'm only going to spend, and I think I said to you, Angie, as well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about me. I had a very difficult childhood. Some of you will know this story. Very, very difficult childhood. Mom was 15, dad was 17. It was 1964. So not, this isn't really what was supposed to be going on then. Both of my parents had alcohol problems and some drug issues. I think probably my mom would have been bipolar. If she'd been born later, they would have called her bipolar. So she had my sister and I, and when I say it was difficult, I mean, it was wildly difficult. There were drugs and kidnappings and violence and too many people coming through the home and too many men coming through the home and the whole thing. So, but where Aralamb and I came together is a kind of an interesting story. And again, I'll keep it relatively short, but it does, my story, how I met Aralamb, does speak to the idea that we all have a soul and we all have this ability to decide every day sort of where we're going to go, and if you would, energetically, which way do you want to go? So when I was 21, and I laugh about this, I can say this about myself, 21 years old, I had a young son. He was literally about a year old. I had moved back to my hometown. I was living in a trailer. I was being the stereotype. I was being a young single mom, drinking too much, smoking cigarettes, doing the whole thing. I was working at a lumber mill, and I had a gentleman that I was dating there. His best friend was 10 years older than me, but a good friend of mine. And I didn't know anything about anything other than that I always had a good intuition for survival, basically. He started coming to me and saying over one winter and saying, I want to teach you how to read the tarot cards. And I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about anything, but I thought it was kind of fun, something to do. As that winter progressed, he kept teaching me to read them, and he would have me pull his cards. And at one point he sat me down, and this is the part that sounds like a movie, but it's true. He sat me down on one very kind of wintry day, and he said, listen, I have been involved. And I'm thinking, he was trying to teach me, and he wanted me to learn these kind of dark magic, black magic, occult. And I kept telling him, no, 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 no. So the months went on, I wasn't helping him. One day he came to where I was living, and he handed me an envelope. And this sounds like a movie, but it's the truth. This is how I met Aralamb. He hands me an envelope. He says, don't open this. I'm afraid that the people that I had left that I've been working with, I'm afraid that they're after me and they're going to do something to me. So if anything happens to me, open this note. Well, of course, I'm 21, and I'm thinking, just like you're thinking right now, I'm sure, okay, this is a little crazy, whatever, this can't be real, all of those things. 3 days later, and I'm shortening this story, but 3 days later, he was in an accident with the gentleman that I was dating, and it was not a big accident. It was on a country road, and a tree limb the size of this pencil came through the front window, broke, and killed him like this. So I wake up in the morning, I open the letter, and the letter says, if you're reading this, they have gotten me, and don't go to the funeral. And of course, we're all living in a small town. So this is a little small town. Don't go to the funeral. Don't go to the parties. They're going to be around here. They're going to come into town as my friends. They're going to be looking for anybody that was helping me. I wasn't particularly helping him, but I knew about what he'd been involved in. So when I read that letter, I became so terrified, because if this all happened, and you could say it was coincidence, but energetically, if this is the way the world is energetically, right? If this is a possibility energetically, then everything I believed about the world wasn't exactly the way that I thought it was, right? It just wasn't. 2 or 3 days later, he said, don't go to my funeral, don't go to the parties, don't go to the gravesite, don't do any of that stuff. You hide until it's over. 3 days later, I get a call from a family friend. They're having a big party for my friend, and all of his friends from the coast were there, and I have to come to the party. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I didn't feel well. My son and I stayed home that day. Long story short, it changed my whole world, because that experience meant that what I thought of the world wasn't exactly how it is energetically. So at that point, at 21 years old, I was terrified. I started praying to God. And when I say God, I mean Christian God, Jewish God, Muslim God. It doesn't matter. Whoever created the universe, I wanted to speak directly to that entity. And I just said, if you're going to make me sensitive, if you're going to give me intuition, I want to be on the right, I want to be on the right team. So please bring me some protection, because I was terrified. I was terrified of these people. Overnight, I wake up in the morning and there's this presence there with me. I wasn't speaking to Aralamb at that time. That took a couple of years, but I felt as though a father figure, an older brother, this incredibly protective presence was in my world. That's all I needed to know. I didn't ask questions. I just knew that somehow my prayer had been answered, because I felt better. I felt protected. I felt secure. Over the next couple of years, I began to sort of understand that this presence was there, and I would literally say, thank you, God, for bringing me this presence. But I didn't have a name. I didn't have any information. I was just doing it strictly because I understood my life had changed in a better way. Eventually, about a year and a half in, I finally said one day, it was the end of the day, and I said, you know, you must have a name. And I said it without thinking about it. The first name that popped right into my head was Aralamb. I wrote it down on a napkin on my counter. And from that point forward, Aralamb was just much more solidly in my world. And over the next few years, to maybe into my mid-20s, I began to understand that I was able to hear Aralamb, and then eventually went on to channel. The other thing I'll tell you is this. Initially, the channeling was going to be the kind of channeling that you see regularly, which is you sort of have to check out, or you sort of have to be asleep and all that stuff. Well, my husband would tell you I'm a talker, right? So I said to Aralamb, I don't want to be asleep. I don't want to be Edgar Casey. I don't want to be a sleeping prophet. I don't want to leave my body for this. I'd rather just be able to listen like anyone who's listening. And he said, you can do that, but it's going to take a little bit longer, because you have to learn to completely quiet your left brain. And you also have to learn to relax your body. So no matter what happens, you just have to relax your body. So that took me a little longer. That is my story in an incredible nutshell, as far as how Aralamb came into my world. If you wanted to read all of the different details about my childhood and different things and how Aralamb weaves that in, you can either buy Being Humans, or you can listen to it for free. So don't even think about that. Listen to it for free on YouTube. But that is how I ended up having Aralamb in my world, and led me to many, many years of doing sessions and doing this work.
I just wanted to add a couple of things, because I am halfway through your book. Thank you so much for that introduction. But there's a very compelling chapter. It's the very beginning of how you develop your relationship with Aralamb. And I do want to back up, because I think this is actually very rich and very important. The relationship that you had with that gentleman, Les. In the book, you basically talk about how your very first encounter with him was being called sort of almost telepathically to a yard where you worked in the freezing cold, and there he was beckoning you. So you knew that you had a connection with him. But more importantly, I think, is that he was dabbling in black magic, was he not?
Yes, he was.
Therein lies the rub, because he had gotten himself very involved with a particular group, and they were doing some really pretty nasty, dastardly things, and he wanted out. And it's a bit like, once you're in, you can never get back out again. And that was what he was afraid of, correct? And so he
completely.
And if I might add, no, I just think this is really important. So
There's a lot more detail. I took out a lot of the fearful details.
This is kind of what makes it so compelling, I think. So I mean, one of the things was that he wanted you to help him.
Yes.
In other words, he felt that you two together could be energetically so powerful that you could somehow energize.
Yes. Out black magic them. He wanted,
And you were just 21 years old, completely freaked out, and said, I don't want to do this. I'm really sorry. And you turned him down. He was disappointed, but he accepted it.
Yeah.
And he came to you with this letter that if anything happens to me, you must open this.
Yes.
You didn't take it that seriously, but then 3 days later, in this freak accident, which, I mean, a branch that's this thick should never be killing anyone, and then you opened the letter, and that's when your world started part. And I do remember in the book that you talk about that night when there was this party going on and you knew
Yes.
you had to stay away. You were in your trailer, it was late at night, your son was sleeping, and you felt a very dark presence.
Oh, it wasn't just that I felt the dark presence. I was laying in the bed, and if any of you recognize what a trailer is, right? The old school trailer, it's one long I shape. So I was laying in my bed and I could see something woke me a sound, and I could see down the whole length of that trailer that there was a dark presence sort of moving around in the kitchen and coming toward me, then up the hall past my son's room. And at that point, everything that he had told me in the letter, everything coalesced into this fear that was so, I don't know how to say it other than that everything that you believe about the world. If someone comes to you and says energy is this powerful, Nikola Tesla, frequency and energy is this powerful. It really, really is. And where you fall, and I could not, I wasn't going to, I was young, but I knew that black magic, the dark occult, all of that control kind of energy, I knew it wasn't for me. As much as I cared about him, I couldn't walk that way with him. And now he's gone and I'm alone. And exactly what he said was going to happen was happening. And it was terrifying.
You think that that black, that sort of dark shadow was this group sort of trying to suss out
Yes.
who you were, and
Yep.
they would sort of they were kind of staking out the territory around
Trying
there.
to find anybody because yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. I think they were trying to, and he said they would do it. He said they'll come and they'll act as my friends. They'll go to the parties, they'll go to the gatherings, they'll be looking, is anybody missing from this party? Oh, you know. And I had friends call me and try to get me to go there that night, and it was just a block from my trailer. So it wasn't far.
That night, I believe you had a dream. Oh, at that moment, you smelled roses, an
Yep.
overwhelming smell of roses, and I think that was your
My
dis-
aunt.
aunt
Yeah.
who was trying to come in through a dream to let you know that you were going to be okay. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. And she kept saying to me, just lay still. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Don't wake up. Don't do anything. Just lay still. Lay still. And I did.
All these years later,
Yeah.
something years later, are you afraid that these people are still around and connecting the dots now?
No, I think in the very beginning, I think in the first 5 or 6 years, occasionally I would sort of get wind or get word that there had been sort of this movement. But then at some point it kind of stopped. Because here's the other thing. I never, I never went into the level of magical energy that was going to come and try to compete with them. I made a stand. I took a stand. I literally said, look, if I'm going to be sensitive, I'm going to work, I'm going to wear the white hat, right? And there'll be people that say, well, energy can be gray. Yep, energy can be gray. But I personally, I only work in the white. I don't even go to the gray. I've had incredibly powerful groups of people approach me at times and say, we think you'd be a great, addition to our group. But I'll say, well, what is it that you do? And they're doing energy work, and it's mostly positive, but sometimes it's a bit gray. And I don't, I have seen the truth of what that is. In that experience, it was that experience that makes you say, I need to decide. I need to pick a direction, and I'm going to stick with that direction. And so that's what that did for me. And that's how Aralamb came into my world. And the beautiful thing now, and he's standing here being patient, by the way, to my right. But the beautiful thing now is that I don't ever have to wonder kind of what I'm working toward, what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing here. I say to people, I'm a one-trick pony because I'm not here to proselytize. I'm just here to get people the information that they need to move their spiritual path forward, right? I'm literally the interpreter. That's what I do. And so in that way, I know that I'm always doing what I'm meant to do. I'm in my path. I'm in my path.
Let
Yeah.
me ask you, so could you explain this idea of the gray energy and the black energy and the fact that you had a choice and thank God you stepped into the white?
Yeah.
Tell us about how does all of that work? I mean, does that mean
So
Satanism is real, that Satan exists? I mean, what is all that about?
So Airlam's hand is up here. Airlam wants us. So you're going to see me say Airlam speaking. This is just me clicking Airlam in. The other thing you're all going to hear me do occasionally, and you probably recognize this spot. If Airlam's talking at length, I'll say still Airlam speaking. That's just me tuning. Because the interesting thing is there's a science to this as well as the spiritual part of it. There's a scientific way that he's connecting in my brain. There absolutely is. And I think science is getting to that. I think they're starting to figure that out. So Airlamb's hand is up. Aralamb speaking. Welcome, everyone. Angie, thank you for having me here today. So that question about dark energy, light energy, gray energy, is there Satan? Are there dark forces? Are there good forces? Energy in and of itself, without intention, the dark matter fabric, right? The dark matter fabric is the energy that everything that is solid, all of you, Melissa sitting here, you're all sitting in it, and it absolutely cannot do anything which would be considered negative, middle of the road, or positive without the intention of a soul upon it. Still Aralamb speaking. So this is why the dark energy, if you're going to get with a group of other souls and you're going to try to control or hurt or contain or have sort of money making and slavery and war, all of those things energetically can be made to happen when you get a group of souls together and they start working with the energy, and their intention, their soul's intention, is to have these dark or nefarious deeds. Now, the gray energy would be something like this. Free will is the highest law. Still Aralamb speaking. Free will is the highest law. So say that your husband or wife decides to leave you for another human being. Gray energy would be this. You get together with others who work with energy, and you decide to do some kind of energy work with the intention, the spiritual intention, that those two people now would never be comfortable, or that they lose everything that they work for. That's gray energy, because you're doing something that is taking away the possible free will of another soul. The free will is always the highest law. So conversely, the most positive thing that any soul can do energetically is to always understand that no matter what's happening in your world, still Aralamb speaking, no matter what's happening, no matter what the lessons are, you always need to understand that even if that soul hurt you in some way, you would have agreed to be in the lifetime having the experience. And the very best thing that you can do is release them in knowing that. So you're not wishing them harm. Now, you may feel that this makes you a victim, but in all actuality, it releases you from victimhood completely, because you say, this is their decision. They have free will. If that person is not going to stay with me, then I have the right to move forward, and something better is coming. Absolutely. Now, you ask, is there Satan, right? Is there an actual Satan? There are two answers to this. Still Aralamb speaking. In the ancient eons on planet Earth, the different ages of man, there have been off-world species. There have been also what I'm going to call not satanic species, not fully negative, but there are energies that can be tapped into in the dark matter fabric, just as the same that the positive energies can be tapped into. So if you have enough souls on a planet believing in a satanic energy base, then those souls all together will connect with that energy and build upon that energy. It's a kind of spiritual manifestation, if you will. So that is the answer to that. Historically, human beings will always write about different sort of personality traits, demons, if you will, that would go with the energy that they are creating on the planet. Also, in ancient history on Earth, still Aralamb speaking, many times the Satan character has been really applied to off-world species. Now, do I say that there is no such thing as that kind of negative energy? No, there absolutely is. But it is always being called in by the souls who want to be in connection with it. You also have the ability to avoid it completely. Do you see? Okay, so me speaking, did that answer your question? That was a long answer with multiple answers for the one question, because it's not simple.
So why is there dark energy? Is that because the dark energy souls choose to not be in the light? Is that the free will extends there as well?
Aralamb's hand is up. Aralamb speaking. Your free will as a soul extends to every possible decision that you would make. The dark matter fabric it's the energy that everything comes from. And with your free will being the highest law in the universe, you can create anything that you want to, regardless if it is the most dark kind of energy and outcome, or if it's the highest possible energy, or if it's something in between. Now understand this as well, still Aralamb speaking. You and your soul are constantly putting attention and intention into the dark matter fabric, whether you even think you are or not. And what this means is, if you're someone who believes you don't have a soul, and you don't believe that your intention in the world has any effect on that dark matter fabric, then you are going to be sort of at the mercy of those around you who are intending into the dark matter fabric. It also speaks to the idea that if you believe something about your life or about yourself that is not very positive, and you hold that belief throughout your whole lifetime, regardless of what it is, you are putting that intention into the dark matter fabric. Now, I don't want to simplify this, still Aralamb speaking. This doesn't happen overnight. It's not as if you sit for 3 days and have a fear about cancer, you're not going to get cancer in 3 days. But if you spend 20 years assuming something about your life, the dark matter fabric at some point has no choice but to give you what you're putting into it, what you're manifesting, what you believe. Your beliefs are powerful. So yes, the answer to your question, still Aralamb speaking. Enough souls that get together. The whole universe is filled with planets that are inhabited. The Earth is one of them. There are certain beliefs on Earth that are simply beliefs, and they've come into being because the majority of the human beings living on the planet believe that to be true. So it's negative, it's in the middle, it can be positive. Right now, during the ascension, millions and millions of souls are waking up to the truth in the universe. They're waking up to the idea that it's true that every soul exists. Every human being on the planet right now has a soul. Everyone's waking up to this. The ascension energy is coming in and waking everyone up to it.
So go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was going to say me speaking.
Well, I was just going to say then, so we are very powerful as creators, but we don't even realize how powerful we are. And we can go the positive, the neutral, or the sort of negative route. And if we don't believe in an afterlife, we don't believe we have a soul, obviously this existence can be very overwhelming and rather depressing and hopeless and helpless, you feel. And so you can get sort of sucked into, if other people are thinking the same way, you can kind of get sucked into that whole way of thinking. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, so that's exactly what he's talking about. And he just said, go ahead to me. Sometimes if I have something I want to add, he'll go, yes, go ahead. I get the chest bump. So he said, yes, go ahead. So what this really means too, and I'll give you a really simple example of this, and I know that all of you listening are going to understand this. Every one of you has someone in your life, I'm sure. It could be a friend, a family member, where you can be having a completely perfectly good day. You're happy, the sun is shining, everything seems pretty good. You run into this person and their energy and the way that they look at life and everything that they say to you, and oftentimes maybe the complaints that they're having, they'll spend a half an hour talking to you about all of those things. And when they leave, you think, oh, I'm exhausted. That exhausted me. Their energy exhausted me. Why? Because you were sitting in their energy and they are intending all of that energy, and you're sitting in it with them. That doesn't mean you don't sit with friends who have difficulties or any of that. But souls right now are just waking up to this reality of, oh, wait a minute. I'm not a victim to the system here. I'm not a victim to the energy. I'm not a victim to religion. I don't even have to be a victim to those that have done things to me that are difficult. I mean, my childhood is a perfect example of that, right? So the idea here is that, yes, you are so much more powerful than any of you believe. You're so much more powerful, even in your day-to-day small little things that you do that just seem, the laundry, doesn't matter what it is. You get to decide every minute, every moment of the day. You do actually get to decide how you feel about everything. And here's the thing. The minute that you start looking at every second of the day as this amazing gift, because here's the other thing. All of the near-death experiencers, they come back from near-death. I've had sessions with a few of them, and I don't care what those people were doing. I don't care if they were being wonderful people in their lives or if they were being terrible people in their lives. When you have a near-death experience and you come back, those individuals are changed to their marrow, right? Sometimes they're frightened. Sometimes but they all come back and say the same thing. Okay, just like I did when I was young and that all happened. They go, oh, this is not what I thought it was. Everything is different than I thought. And when you die, your body dies, but you go somewhere and you make decisions and you look at your life. And when people come back from near death, it changes them dramatically. But here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to have a near death experience to start to understand how glorious being incarnate is, even on your worst day, because you're still in it and you chose to be here. Do you see what I mean? And the minute you start putting that kind of gratitude and energy into every day, life's not perfect. I'm normal. I'm the most normal person you ever want to meet. I mean, I can get snarly in traffic and I can wish that the line at the grocery store was going faster. I'm normal. But having this connection with Aralamb and doing so many sessions with now thousands of people, it makes me, every time I go, yeah, but this is glorious. I mean, there's been a lot in my life that's not been glorious, but man, if you're here and you're still breathing and you're still able to move forward, that's why you came, to change. And if you're on earth right now, Aralamb's hand went up. Aralamb speaking. He just interrupted me and said, I'll take this. Aralamb's hand went up. He's speaking now. Aralamb speaking. So what Melissa was getting ready to sort of say is that if you are on planet Earth right now, whether you are have been on planet Earth for 2 hours, or you've been here for 104 years, you are on planet Earth now because as a soul, regardless of what this lifetime has looked like for you, you are here specifically to be in this ascension time. You wanted to be here now. So if you even left today with that kind of knowledge, so still Aralamb speaking, even if today you start to think, okay, I know I chose to be here, regardless of what the circumstances have been. I chose to be here, regardless of what the losses are, or the diseases, or the joy, all of it. I chose to be here. So why did I choose to be here? And what do I want to be doing during this ascension? How do I want to grow? And when you come to your final end and you're going to cross back into creation here where I'm standing, what do you want your life review to look like? Because everyone ends up doing their life review. Every soul does one. And your life review is the most simple thing in the world. You get to feel, still Aralamb speaking, you get to feel every single emotion and feeling that you ever had anyone else feel toward you. So everything that everyone felt around you, you get to feel it in real time, because that's the only way to learn that lesson. It's the only way to understand. How did I make everyone else in my life feel? Now, you're going to get a lot of joy from that, but you may also feel some pain. You may feel guilt. You may feel regret. Who knows? But the point is, you chose to be on the planet. And right now, during this ascension, it makes every one of you who are listening incredibly powerful souls, because you get to make these changes and these thought changes and these spiritual changes, still Aralamb speaking, the spiritual changes within the lifetime. So you're all the first humans who are literally going to make these changes and do the healing with others within the lifetime, because you know that you came here on purpose. Let me say this to you as well, still Aralamb speaking. As to any of you listening who have had a near-death experience, or any of you that are just interested in that, at this point on Earth, the near-death experience will always have been put into your lifetime arc by you. So anyone who's had a near-death experience, and I talk to people in sessions about this who've had them, if you've had a near-death experience, you put that experience in your own timeline to be this place of pivot, right? Whether you're an atheist, no matter what you were doing, as Melissa said, before that near-death experience, every soul is changed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because suddenly they understand what's real, what is truly real. And so it's important to understand that too. Okay, me speaking, me back.
Okay, I was just going to ask, what about spiritually transformative experiences that can be very transforming for people as well? Do those count? Are they part of the pre-birth plan?
Aralamb speaking. Absolutely. That's Angie. That is absolutely correct. Anytime that you have a spiritual experience that, as I just said, causes you to do this pivot. And if you notice, spiritual experiences that are cathartic, spiritual experiences that bring you another level of understanding, they always pivot your intention. And you always end up, whether it's a fearful experience or a positive one, right? Whether you're having something that's sort of having you eclipse what you know to be true, and no matter what is the sort of thing that drives you in that direction, suddenly a soul will find itself on the path because you can't unexperience it. Melissa would say you can't unsee those things. You can't unfeel those things. So you no longer, it's that experience that leaves you unable to be the soul that you were before the experience. So yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question regarding Aralamb being your spirit guide. Have you guys had other incarnations together? Have you had other connections in previous lifetimes over time?
So, me speaking. So this is interesting, and I write about it a little bit, or Aralamb does in the book. So this is the really funny thing. I had been a part of a core group of souls for a long time, and I'm not the oldest. There are people listening right now. Aralamb said yes. There are people listening right now who have had many, many more lifetimes than I have had. But I had been in a core group of souls for a lot of lifetimes, and souls can do this. And at one point, and this would have been about 800 or 900 years ago, it was the last incarnation that Aralamb and I physically had together, because he's actually an older soul than I'm. Older, he hates that, but he's a longer lived soul. So his core group that I happen to be a part of, he's part of my core group. I literally left my old core group and said, listen, it's been wonderful. I love all you guys. We've done a lot of learning together, but I'm ready to sort of do some other things. It's almost like if you were in college or school, you could change your major, right? So I approached between lifetimes a couple of thousand years ago. I approached Earth time, approached Airlamb's group because I knew Airlamb's group was in communications, and that interested me as a soul. And I know this sounds crazy because I'm talking about being between lifetimes, but this is what happened. So I went to his group, and this is how this works. Any of you could do the same in the next time that you're in the middle. I went to his group and said, I really want to come into your group as like the newest member. And what happens is some soul in that group has to sort of say, okay, I'll take responsibility for this new person, this new soul that wants to come in. So Aralamb did that for me. So in the first few lifetimes that Aralamb and I had, I was literally like his page, and he is always in communications. But the lifetime that I remember the most was that he was a kind of a druidic bard, if you will, in that kind of area of Wales that we think of as Wales now, about 900 years ago. So we're talking not a super nice existence for me. I was like the lowest in that lifetime. I was just one of his students, and I spent the whole lifetime just learning and sleeping in, not in, I wasn't wearing silk. I wasn't a queen. It wasn't much fun, but that's what I did. And that's the lifetime that I remember with him. At this point, he doesn't incarnate really anymore, although he could if he wants to. That's the other thing. Some people say, well, you're forced to reincarnate over and over and over. Aralamb denies that categorically. You're never forced to reincarnate. Anybody listening today, if you say, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that are thinking, when I get back over this time, there's no way I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. And you have the right to do that. But what I find, particularly in sessions, is that people will be talking about their core group, and Aralamb will be talking about their core group, and the person will say to me, my life has been hard, and why would I have come in? And it'll turn out that they were the soul who kind of talked everyone else into coming back into an incarnation again, right? Because how long are you going to be on vacation? Really? I mean, at some point, it's like you want to get back in and do the real learning and the experiencing and all of that stuff. But that's the lifetime with Aralamb and I, is that one.
In the book, I think he talks about how he no longer has the need to incarnate.
Right.
Because he and his soul pod have all sort of graduated. They've all lived so many different lives together and learned so many different lessons that they've kind of graduated to the master's or PhD level at this point.
Right. They're all teachers. They tend to be teachers.
So they've graduated to that level. That's why he doesn't incarnate anymore, because he's so wise that he can help other people.
So Aralamb's hand just went up. Aralamb's hand just went up. Aralamb speaking. So this is interesting, Angie. It isn't about wisdom. It isn't about wisdom. And I'll say this to you, and this is a bit of it's personal in a way, but I'm going to say this to you. You're sitting in your lifetime right now, and in your core group, you are literally what we call originator soul in your core group. Means in your core group of souls, and I'm not going to name them here because this is public, still Aralamb speaking, but you're the originator soul. That means that you are the longest lived soul in your core group. And the other thing I'll tell you is this, is you're sitting incarnate in this lifetime right now because you've came in to do the work you're doing. Because again, you're doing the work of getting sort of this information out. And on Earth now, it's some of the most important work that you can do. But I can tell you this, for the last 3,000 or 4,000 Earth years, you actually always stay behind and act as a guide, as a teacher guide for souls incarnate. So you've not been to the planet very recently, because usually you're doing the work that I'm doing right now. So it isn't about graduating, it's more about the idea that you've had enough experience that you can even do the really negative experiences without having anger, fear, remorse, guilt. You have to sort of climb past those lessons. And so once you get to that point, you can always reincarnate. I absolutely will reincarnate at some time in the future, probably to a planet in the Pleiades, because those planets are less warring, where it would be a long vacation lifetime, right? I can do that anytime. But the interesting part of it right now is that one of the hardest planets to be incarnate on, and every one of you listening is sitting on one of the hardest planets in the universe, because Earth is catching up to a baseline. And then when it gets to the baseline energetically, it still has to move with the rest of the universe. And so this is where you're sitting. So this says a lot about you as a soul, because usually you would be staying behind to be a contracted guide for some soul who's incarnate. So you'd be overseeing, as I am with Melissa now. Now, my group, normally, Aralamb still speaking, at this point, my group, my core group, which Melissa is a part of, we are a large core group of souls. Many of us, most of us, stay here in the middle, in what I call the 89th level. We stay here in order to assist the few that are in the core group still. And every one of them that's left in our core group are on the planet now within Melissa's core group, which is also mine. But the bulk of us are not on the planet, right? The bulk of us are not. And so this is something that you should also understand about yourself, and that is that you have a long history of doing the work that I'm doing for Melissa with other souls, not even souls in your core group, but sister groups to yours. So I'm going to say this. I hope it's okay that he said that to you.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, sometimes it's okay when it's just Aralamb and another person and me and their guide. But like
Right.
when we're in a big public, sometimes when he goes to start talking, I think, oh, what's he going to say? You
No,
know, because oh.
right. Thank you for that. That leads me to my next question. And that is, we talk about old souls and younger souls, but, if we're all created about the same time, which is what I understand, how can we have old souls and young souls? How does that work?
Aralamb's hand is up. So how that works is this, and this ties right into the last question. Aralamb speaking. Souls are never, ever, ever forced to incarnate, not on Earth, not on any habited planet in the universe. The universe is beyond eons old. So yes, every soul in this universe started out at the same space. Everyone was in, you could say, the energy of creation was holding every soul in the cradle. Certain souls, you're an originator soul. So you would have been a soul. I'm going to give you an analogy because it's a good way to say this. It's summertime and there's a parade going by and there's a mother or a father standing on the side of the street watching the parade go by. And there's a 4-year-old holding on to mom's leg. So think of that as the creation. The creator God is mom. The universe is the parade starting to go by. The 4-year-old is you as a young soul. You're safe with mom. At some point, that 4-year-old is going to start to try to get away from mom and run out into they want to go out into the parade. I want to go now. I'm not scared anymore. This is how originator souls start lifetimes. You are an originator soul for your core group that you're sitting in now. That means as a tiny baby soul, you stood up and looked into the universe and said, I've never had a lifetime. I don't have memory of this, right? But I'm so not afraid anymore. I want to know what this is about. So you stepped out into the parade. And by doing that, other souls said, look what she's doing. Let's go stand next to her. That's the originator soul. And then for you, about 15 or 18 more souls finally came out to stand with you. And then you all started the first lifetime together. So here's the way that old souls and young souls happen. After that very first lifetime together, and the first lifetimes are difficult. They're difficult. Usually they're in ways that are practically some souls, Aralamb speaking, some of the first souls in this universe were with humanoid style species that may not have had language. They may not have had shelter, right? These would have been difficult. So after that first lifetime, you or any of the soul members of your group, anyone who's listening here, you can stop having lifetimes anytime you want to. And the oldest souls in the universe, the long-lived souls, still Aralamb speaking, those are going to be the souls, those long-lived souls. Those are the ones that every time they cross back over, no matter how challenging the lifetime was, they go directly into their life review. They may take some time in the rest doing all of the things that they want to do, but they always come right back into a lifetime on Earth or some other planet because they enjoy the learning process. They want to go in and do it. They want to sort of take all of the different positions, because when I say positions, still Aralamb speaking, I mean the mother, the father, the sister, the brother, the male, the female, something in between, the losses, the gains, the love, all of it, right? Guilt. Every one of you will have been the bad actor in some lifetime. Do you see? Those souls are going to be the older souls because they want to keep coming in for the learning. They want to work through it. They want to keep doing it, but you're never forced to do it. So you could be a soul with 200 lifetimes. You're perfectly happy with that. And now you've had 201 lifetimes and you say to your group, you go on without me. I'm going to stay here where it's quiet. I'm going to work in the Hall of Akashic Records. I'm going to work with healing. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. I get to make the choices and maybe come back around. Maybe I'll come back around with you. Or maybe I'll join another group who's a group of young souls, right? You have free will, even at that level. Every soul, highest law, free will. Okay, so I love this is me speaking. I love when Aralamb, and he doesn't use it often, but I love that he used the parade analogy. Do you get that?
I do,
It's
absolutely.
literally like
It's
all
very
of us
good.
as souls at the beginning of this universe, before the new one was made, when it was fresh, we're all kind of we're all with our father, mother. We're all in that place. We've not had any lifetimes. We have no memory. We're just these beautiful pink, beautiful white souls with nothing. And then some soul has to stand up and say, oh, but look what's going on. Do I want to get involved with that? Maybe I'm not afraid anymore. And you do that, right? And when that happens, the creation, the Father, Mother, God, however you want to say it, lets go of you and says, yes, go ahead. Free will, go ahead.
To make sure I've understood, then it sounds as though the older souls are the ones who really want to jump into the parade several times over to keep learning from that experience.
That's exactly right. The older souls are the ones that say, even though lifetimes are difficult, even though it's the souls that have that need and want to continue. And here's the other thing. The oldest souls are also the ones in core groups. This is me talking, but Aralamb said, go ahead. They're always the souls who will say, listen, you all want to learn about addiction. Everybody wants to learn about addiction this time around. So you know what? I'm the oldest soul here. I'm the oldest soul in our group. I will go in, and even though it's going to be painful and awful for me because I love you all so much, I will be the alcoholic, abusive father this time around. And all of you, you can be my wife, you can be my kids. You're all going to have the experience and have to try to heal from it in the lifetime, but I'm going to be the baddie. And you can trust me, I'll be the baddie because you all love each other. It's this incredible. So sometimes the souls that you think, oh, that is a terrible soul. Sometimes those souls will be the ones that come in to be the catalyst for everyone else to get the big learning. And that's how I forgave my own mother because, I was with her when she passed away and boy, there was a lot of me that didn't want to be there holding her hand, except that I had an amazing experience when she died, which came into all of this work and into the book later. But the point is, yes, so that's right. Those older souls. And if you're on planet Earth right now, everybody on planet Earth right now, and Aralamb tells people this in sessions, there aren't any young souls on planet Earth. So everybody who's on planet Earth right now, everybody listening, I'm looking at the lineup up there. You all are very long-lived souls. So don't kid yourself and think, gee, maybe I'm a young soul and I just whatever. No, no, no. Only old, long-lived souls are being allowed to Earth because of the ascension. It's like all hands on deck. All the most powerful energy holders have to be here now. We're only a third of the way through the ascension. Aralamb talks to you, we're a third of the way through. We got 2/3 left to go. And lots of you listening are going to live through the whole thing, right? It's a wild, wild, wild west right now. And it's.
if we're all old souls, it doesn't mean that we necessarily incarnated many, many, many times on Earth. We could have incarnated on many.
Exactly.
It's just,
And
it's all.
Aralamb's hand is up here. Aralamb speaking. I'm sorry to interrupt, but to answer your question before you're even finished asking it, the bulk of the souls that are on Earth right now, the whole of Earth, the bulk, I'm going to say at least 68 to 70% of the souls have had most of their lifetimes in the Pleiades. So there are many, many Pleiadian starseeds. I would say more than half of the population of planet Earth right now, still Aralamb speaking, are Pleiadian starseeds because the Pleiadians are environmentally, sociologically, spiritually, scientifically, energy, medicine, health, they are 1,000 years in front of Earth. So all of the souls who have had the bulk of their lifetimes as Pleiadians, they're coming in now. You all, most of you will be our Pleiadians or Arcturians because your knowledge, even if you don't remember it now, the knowledge that you have buried in that soul memory is what's going to move you forward and help you to bring others forward as well. So yes, that's very true.
So I believe we're just going to have a confirmation here, but David's asking, so if all souls were created at the same time, then older souls simply are those who incarnated more times and have had more experience. Is that a yes?
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and answer because that's yes. So yes. And if you read in the book, our universe right now, and I'm not trying to sell a book. When I say that, I hate it because people say, if you read the book, but you can listen to it for free. So in the book, Aralamb talks about the idea that when this universe, the one we're sitting in, the creation, the creator God put this universe, what he did was, or she, I say he, she, whatever. There's not really any, but took a very, very old universe that was full of souls, that universe was sort of getting ready to do the collapse upon itself. So the creator took that universe that was still had souls in it, all of the billions of souls in that universe, then took a universe that was very young and mostly full of gases and inert. In other words, lots of energy over here, but no souls. Tons of souls over here, but not much energy left, right? Everything's kind of winding down. Literally put those two together, brand new soul, filled with all of those old souls, which now are brand new to start again, should they choose to, right? So that's why in this very universe, yes, what he said is exactly the answer. Yes, that's why. Yep.
We have another question here from Andra,
Yes.
and she's asking, tell us about the ascension, please.
Okay, so Aralamb's hand is up. Aralamb's speaking. So I use the word ascension, and it's a word that is used so much now. And I want to say something that is going to clarify a little bit for you. There's this belief, and the work of Dolores Cannon, still Aralamb speaking, the work of Dolores Cannon is very, very literally factual in many, many ways. Her work came out at a time when humans on Earth were just starting to kind of get this information. The only thing about the information that she has given souls on Earth is that there's this belief somehow that Earth is going to split into two. So that there's going to be this Earth sort of split into two going one direction full of souls that didn't somehow make the ascension. And that there's going to be this highly energetic Earth that's going to continue the ascension with only those souls who somehow were able to figure out how to make the ascension in a positive way. That has been taken in a literal sense, still Aralamb speaking. The actual way that that works is it's not meant to be taken so literal because this is what's happening. The ascension does not mean that a certain number of souls are going to suddenly pop out of existence where you're sitting now. It doesn't mean that the earth is going to split in two. What it means is that all of the three-dimensional energy that can no longer be sustained in the fourth, fifth, and sixth energy dimensions. The fourth, fifth, and sixth are now beginning to rain down upon planet Earth, still Aralamb speaking. The third dimension is not going away. It's just that all of the heavy, heavy energy that cannot stay, it cannot exist in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions, those things are falling away. There are not going to be any souls left behind. That isn't how it's going to work. But what is happening is this. If you are a soul, still Aralamb speaking, if you are a soul who is an atheist, does not believe you have a soul, does not believe in spiritual energy, does not believe anything, you believe you're organic and you're chemical, and that is all you believe, you are still going to make the ascension on lifeboat Earth, kicking and screaming, or you're going to make it smoothly and calmly. right? This is why the kind of information that you're getting out with a program like this one, or that we do on YouTube or books, everything that you do, this is why you're here, is to get the information to people to understand it's best to calmly understand that 90% of the population is going to go ahead and ascend with planet Earth into the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, bringing everything that is positive about the third dimension with it. Do you see? You're not losing something, you're adding. You're adding energetic levels. You're not losing. What you will be losing is the penchant for war, disease, right? Hidden, every energy that's hidden, everything that is dark, slavery, all things that have been hidden from mankind about humanoids' history, medicine, energy, think Nikola Tesla, right? Cancer could have been solved 100 years ago, right? And was in certain parts of the world. Many of the social structures must fall away, but it does not mean that the bulk of humanity has to die or go to some other dark place, because Earth is not splitting in two. So the word ascension is so loaded, still Aralamb speaking. It's so loaded with all of this symbolism, when the truth is the water is rising, right? And the boat, the earth boat that you're all on, is rising with the water. So the best thing to do is understand this. Don't panic. Start to think about your soul. And here's the other thing, still Aralamb speaking. A lot of what you hear about the ascension gives this idea that every soul has got to figure out how to heal the whole world, that you're responsible in some way for everything dark that's going on, for everything that needs to be changed and fixed. The very best way that you can change the world, and this sounds simple, but it's true energetically, the best way that you can change the world singularly to begin the process is to really start to listen to the voice of your own soul. Because the voice of your own soul is going to have you healing every one of your relationships around you. And then that acts as a wave of energy, which then acts and it moves out and out and out. And that's the way that all of the souls through this ascension start to change the world, so that everyone can look toward the ascension and understand everybody gets to go. This isn't one of those things where you've got to do something magical in order to go. But the magic is that you can go in this beautiful, beautiful growth oriented way. You don't have to go in fear. You're still going to move. Okay, so I'm going to ask, so did that answer your question? This is me talking.
I think so. I mean, certainly it was one of my questions, so thanks for jumping in. That has always been very confusing, this notion that somehow the earth
Yeah.
is split and some people are going to get left behind and some people are going to be the
Yeah,
chosen.
it's really interesting about that, because again, Aralamb always he basically says, Dolores Cannon's work is spot on, and he'll say that to people, and he loves her, but he does say that somehow it was taken in this very literal sense rather than energetically. Because yes, is there going to be a dark, angry bunch of things? I'm saying bunch of things, like falling away from Earth and separating from us, the us, all of us? Yes. And you can see that happening every day, right? Every day in the news, every day, new things are coming out, and you go, what in the world has been going on? Like, how many times a day do you say, every week I say to my husband, what? That's all been going on, and we didn't know that that was going on? Things are coming up and falling away, but not the human race, right? The human race, we're going to stay with Earth, and Earth is going to carry us through this ascension. But the more you can look at your soul during the ascension, the easier it's going to be for you, the easier.
And my understanding is that all this dark stuff, it has to come out in order for us
Absolutely.
as to what we want to live
Yeah.
with, don't want anymore. And Dolores Cannon, I think, talked about the three waves as well
Yep.
in the 60s, I think, and then so on and so and the indigo children and the people who have chosen
Yep.
to in different waves to really transform the earth
Yes.
and get us
And,
on.
and a lot of us sitting here, I think, like I was born in 64, and then so I mean, I didn't, I was very young when I realized, okay, I was 21, 22 when I had that experience, and was like, I'm supposed to do something. And I didn't get it right away. It's taken me some time. It took me some time through my 20s, but I knew that I had at least chosen a side. I had chosen a team to play on. I didn't know what that team was going to be exactly as I got older, but I knew I'd chosen a team. So that made me feel like, okay, I can relax. Things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen, and I'll keep working toward it. But I knew I'd chosen a team, and that's really what it's about right now. Because and Aralamb will say to people, if you're a person who loves animals, and you're on Instagram or you're on the internet, you can be completely broken to pieces every day because of the plight of, say, dogs and cats in the world. And here's the thing, you as one soul can't necessarily change that. But what you can do immediately is find out, where is the pound around my house? Where is the animal shelter near me? Because you can physically go and start to do something about that horrible thing that you hate right there today. Go there, find out what they need, volunteer there, do that work there, because that's how he's talking about rippling out. And it's just like today, you're asking amazing questions, and the people here are asking amazing questions. Some question that gets answered today could have one of your people go, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that over there. I'm going to do that. I feel moved to do that because of that answer. And that person doesn't know how huge an effect that will have. And that's how we have to look at it. It's that incredible rippling effect. Everything that you do, even the things that seem small to you, they might be the thing that's huge out there in the Earth's energy, right? In Earth's energy. Seriously, it's so important.
I can't believe an hour has already gone by. We're going to have you back because I still have tons of questions. We've just hit the ground. Absolutely.
I know, right? We were in. That's why I said to you, hey, I'm not going to talk about myself a lot because you can find out all about me online, but it's great to have people asking questions of Aralamb if he's, here.
Clarifying that the earth not literally splitting, but let me take this now to another level, the idea of the other side. So some of our fears, I think, are people who are on the spiritual path have family members who are very poo-poo the whole idea of this life after death, and we love them anyway, but we seem to be on different paths. So what happens when you actually do hit the afterlife? You transcend from this physical life on earth. Do people go to different frequency based on their sort of spiritual level of awakening? Do they go to different frequencies? Does everybody go to the same place? What happens if we have loved ones who are atheists? Will we see, I'm assuming that they will make it to the other side, but will they go somewhere else? Will they go to a different frequency from us?
So Aralamb's hand is up. So Aralamb's speaking. So I'm going to answer different parts of that question. So the first part of this is every single soul, whether it's on Earth or any other planet, if you have any kind of an organic body that you've had a lifetime in, or even there are species that have a partly organic, partly light body, right? But if you've had an incarnation and you've had that soul and that body for you passes away, that body ends. And I want to say this as well. However you end in a lifetime, barring suicide, if you end in a lifetime, barring that, you absolutely will have put that time in your own, you chose it. However you die, when your body dies, still Aralamb speaking, however your body dies from that incarnation, you will have chosen that for your exit, always. It's never by accident, and no one else chooses for you. You put it in your own timeline. That's what it is. Whether you're 3 Earth years old or you're 103 Earth years old, you would have chosen that, right? You would have chosen. So if you're an atheist, and as Melissa would say, you believe that you're literally just a piece of meat walking around with some collection of chemicals here, immediately when your body drops, your contracted lifetime guide is either going to be right there with you or very soon after with you. You are immediately going to cross over where I am standing. This is the 89th level of creation. Melissa calls it the lobby because the Hall of Akashic Records is here. The other reason she calls it the lobby is because souls continually, in the millions every day, come and go from this very level. So if she spreads her vision out past me a bit, she can see the beings of souls moving to the area of the forgetting to go into a lifetime and returning back. Now, if you're an atheist, and I often talk to people in sessions who say they're coming out of an atheist kind of belief system, I say the most beautiful thing is when a soul who has had a whole lifetime and chose to be an atheist, the moment that you cross over to where I'm standing, you immediately have full recognition. You remember every lifetime you've ever had. You remember creation. You remember that you're a sovereign soul connected to the Creator. You remember everything instantly. And the atheists always say the same thing. They do this. And they say, I just went through that whole lifetime, and the one thing I was meant to do was to remember who I was, and I didn't. And there's no punishment. It's not punitive because it's always free will. So every atheist, every soul, it doesn't matter if you've been a phenomenally high level soul in a lifetime spiritually or a complete novice spiritually, every soul returns to the 89th level. Now, every soul has their own connection to this area. So Melissa says she opens her doors to the right, and here I stand. You have your own opening. You have your own connection. Every soul listening is sovereignly connected to creation and the Creator God. So every soul is connected. Now, if you're an atheist, you come right over. If you are a novice, you come to the same opening. The one caveat to this is this. If you spent a lifetime, although this is changing because of the waves of souls that you just talked about, it's much more likely in this year, as you all sit on Earth, it's much more known that most people believe that there's something after death. Most human beings now have some kind of a sense of a soul or an energy. Most human beings believe that there's probably other species off world. So everyone's waking up to this, but let's do this. Still Aralamb speaking. 50 Earth years ago, let's go 60 Earth years ago. If you were a 60-year-old woman who had been a devout Catholic your whole life, then that would have been your spiritual paradigm. So when you cross over, your body drops, you cross over, you still come to this particular place because this is where the coming and the going happens. But you may be met by your loved ones. You may be met by a sort of vision for yourself that fits into your spiritual narrative. It would be the same if you were a Buddhist. Now, the caveat that I make to that is if you are, say, a Muslim and you believed that if you sacrificed your life for your religion and you cross over, you're not going to suddenly be met by virgins because that was your paradigm. You're going to get there and you're going to be here where I'm standing and you're going to suddenly have full knowledge of your lifetime, all the lifetimes that you've had, and the reason that you came into the lifetime in the first place. So what happens is every soul gets complete knowledge at the moment that you step across. Will other souls greet you? Absolutely, if they can and if they agreed to, right? Sometimes the souls that you think are going to meet you, they may be doing something else at the time because there are so many things going on here, teaching and learning and traveling. But the souls that you most likely think would be meeting you normally do. But your guide is always going to be that first hand that reaches for you, right? Now, I will say this, and I think this is going to answer another question. Souls don't get lost, and ghosts, the way that people believe in ghosts, aren't true. The ghostly is often an echo of energy. If you were a person who lived your whole life in a house, being very angry, being very cross, not liking people, being very depressed, very involved in your own sort of negativity, when you cross back over, your soul, your spirit, your energy doesn't necessarily stay there, but you may have left echoes of that energy behind in that building. So that's a possibility. But it doesn't, you don't go to a different place because you're of a higher plane. Your initial crossing back over. Now, when you cross over, depending on what level of learning you have, that will depend on where you go from there, where you choose to go, right? But it's not when you first cross over. When your body drops away, you immediately are outside of your body. Some souls choose with their guide to sort of look at the people around them. Some souls choose to see their funeral. Some souls choose to see what happens when they're gone, what their people are doing. And souls always have the opportunity to visit you anytime that they want to. Some souls don't visit those that they've left in the lifetime because part of the contract was that those souls want to have the loss. They want to have the feeling of complete loss, and getting a visitation from that soul who's crossed over from your life would give you a sense that they're still with you so that they're going to stop that free will of wanting to have the loss. It's all about the contracts and it's all about the free will. So me speaking, did that answer your question? Sometimes I feel like someone will ask a question and Aralamb will give you 6 different ways to look at it. Like here's the round version of the answer to that question. So I hope that answered.
That was good. Thank you. So it sounds as though we all go basically to the 80
Yes.
lobby level. So let me ask you also. Let's get a little bit controversial and let's tackle some of the difficult topics. So I want to bring up suicide, and you're very eloquent in your book in terms of explaining the consequences. And I have some people here who have experienced loved ones who've committed suicide, and so we want to know, is it ever acceptable? Is it not acceptable? Is it a big no-no? What are the consequences, and how do you explain all of that? Because I think you alluded to it a little earlier, that there can be, you can plan to do some pretty negative things in this lifetime, and those can be accepted as the life plan. But if you opt out early, leave the game early through suicide, that somehow is really not acceptable. So please elaborate.
Okay, so Airlamb's hand is up. So this is a very difficult piece of sort of the spiritual realm in a way. It difficult because it's difficult in that it is a kind of a set rule similar to the free will law. It's kind of attached to it. So suicide being acceptable or being looked at something as something that you would have planned, that your group would have agreed to. If you have a cancer and you have been struggling with cancer for 3 or 4 years and your whole family is with you and you're in a hospital and you're in hospice and a nurse comes through and says, here is the liquid morphine. Probably your loved one is going to live for another 3 weeks and your loved one is in horrible pain. If you and your family are sitting there and everyone is with you and it's obvious that this is part of your life, if they then start to go ahead and give you spoons of morphine every time that you ask, and so you end up living 3 or 4 days rather than 3 or 4 weeks of suffering, that is not suicide, because that is a free will choice between you and your families. Does that make sense? Free will is the law that never wants to be crossed. Every soul was given free will and is always carrying free will. This is the free will to do what you would call the good, the middle ground, and the negative. You always have the free will. So here is the issue with suicide. If you are a 30-year-old man and you are depressed and you have a wife and 2 small children and you have a big family and you are looking at your life and you decide that you are going to opt out of that life by way of any way, you pick the way, still Aralamb speaking. If you take a gun or you take pills or you drive your motorcycle off a cliff on purpose, you would not have put that end in your lifetime. And here's why. You would have made contracts with that wife, with those children, with those parents, with your friends, with your extended family. You may have made contracts with someone that you were going to come into connection with just 4 days after that suicide that was going to turn everything in your life around for you. And you would have contracted with that person. Yes, we're going to become business partners. And through this business and through this friendship, we were supposed to help 1,500 other souls on the planet. But I made this decision to leave early in this way. So what you've done there is you have literally opted out of your contracts early. So you've taken the free will of your wife. You've taken the free will of your children. You've taken the free will of your parents. You have taken the free will of everyone around you. You have also disrupted their timelines. So you've driven your motorcycle off the cliff. You still come to the exact same place here in creation where I stand. You are not punished in any way. But what does happen is this. You now are going to be able to see and watch everyone in your core group sort of kicked off their timeline and now dealing with all of this emotion, all of the guilt, all of the shame, all of the ifs, for all of the time that it takes every one of them, right down to your grandchildren, if they're in your core group, to come back over. Now, because of where the ascension is now, still Aralamb speaking, because of where the ascension is now, many more souls are waking up to their own spirituality. Melissa has had some souls connect with her or try to connect with her who committed suicide over the last 4 or 5 years of strangers because they sort of see her light on, right? They see her light on and they think, if I could get her to connect with my family, then I could say to them, I'm sorry, please, it wasn't your fault. you can sort of try to make it up within the lifetime, get people back on to their timeline. But you see how convoluted this all gets from an energetic standpoint. So the better thing, always, still Aralamb speaking, no matter what you're going through, is to stay in the lifetime and begin to reach out, because that's what you would have wanted to do if you come in with a deep depression. You don't come in with depression planning to leave the lifetime early. You come in with depression or physical ailments or disease. You come in with all of that psychological difficulty in order that you want to have the challenge of overcoming it in the lifetime and healing with those around you and the people in your world. And even if you're someone, still Aralamb speaking, who is living alone, I have no family, I have no one to help. How do you know that you dealing with your depression in any way that you can? You could begin to deal with your depression and then 3 years later write a book about it and help to heal 10,000 others. Do you see? You don't know what you've got in your timeline. And if you leave early in that way, you'll never know. And nor will you do all the work that you're supposed to do. Still Aralamb speaking. The other part of this, so the disease part at the very end of your life, that's not considered a suicide. Now, there are times in timelines where a person may have a close call with suicide and build into that lifetime that it doesn't work or that they're saved. Right? This is similar to that near-death experience. But I would never say to someone, go ahead and do that. Maybe you've put it in your timeline that you would be saved. You're never meant to do it. You're never meant to do it. It's one of the only, you're never meant to steal the free will from another, and you're not meant to leave a timeline early. You're not meant to leave the timeline early. And you realize by leaving the timeline early, you're breaking that solid spiritual rule. And then you're breaking the first spiritual rule because you're taking free will away from everyone who agreed to the timeline with you in your core group.
Let me ask you, because this is very interesting. So let's take the 30-year-old man married with a couple of kids who commits suicide. And let's just say now, instead of committing suicide, he's actually murdered. So ultimately, the ripple effect to the immediate family is still loss. But one is self-inflicted loss and the other one is a life taken. So tell me qualitatively what the differences are there, at least as far as the murder is.
Aralamb speaking. So the difference is this. Before the lifetime, the whole core group would have come together, and that soul of the 30-year-old man who was murdered, he would have agreed to be the soul who was going to be murdered because the rest of them wanted to have that loss. So by him going ahead and staying in his timeline and being murdered, he's allowing them, he's giving them their free will. He's saying, yes, I will do the hard work here. I'll do the hard work here. I'll come in and be a loving father, and I will love you. And yes, there will be a murder. And here's the other part of this. The murderer also has to be counted on to do that part of it. This is a difficult thing for souls to understand, but when you think about it, still Aralamb speaking, if you come into the lifetime and you understand the traumas that you're going to have, you also understand the traumas that you're going to survive. And this is why it's so enriching for souls when they hear of another soul who has been through a near miss, who has survived a murder attempt, who has survived against all the odds. Because what happens? Who has survived a near-death experience? Because a near-death experiencer comes back, and what do they share with those around them? That would have been part of their contract. So yes, murder is different. You would have agreed to that. You agreed to all of the violence. You agreed to any of the sort of malicious treatment that you get, the abuse, right? You agree to a certain amount of poverty or all of the things that are difficult. All of the challenges would have been the things that you came in that you knew that you were going to try to overcome in the lifetime.
It's okay. Okay. It's okay to murder someone, but it's not okay to murder yourself, essentially. Because
Aralamb's hand is, oh, go ahead.
I'm not trying to be facetious or anything. I'm really just
I know. No, it's a serious question.
Serious question. So when you murder the self, God doesn't punish, but there are consequences, presumably. And so the consequences are you live out. You're still on the other side, waiting for the others to live out their lives and kind of feeling the consequences of your actions.
So Aralamb speaking. So if you are the murderer within a lifetime, okay, you're the perpetrator. When you come and you know this coming in before the lifetime, you understand no one gets away without feeling what happened in real time. If you're the murderer, so in other words, the universe never gives any, it's not okay to murder and it's not okay to commit suicide. But here's what happens with this. If you murder someone and then eventually you cross back over, you're going to stand in your life review, still Aralamb speaking. You're going to stand in your life review and you're going to feel every single feeling and emotion of the person that you murdered in real time, in your real time. You're then going to feel every feeling and emotion for everyone that that person was a loss to. So you're going to feel all of that. You never get away from any lifetime without feeling everything that you made everyone in the lifetime feel. The tiny things, the huge things. So the murders, the inconveniences, right? When you raise your voice to that child, you're going to feel what the child felt, not what you felt, but what the child felt. And you're going to feel it in real time. So when you think about it this way, it is the most simple version of walking in another's shoes. Right? So the soul is always learning to have complete grace, because here's the beautiful part of this. If you ever have known what it feels like to be murdered because you were the murderer, you're not going to spend very many lifetimes being a murderer, are you? Unless your core group says, we've pretty much grown past this really low level kind of lesson, but there's still one of us here that sort of needs to get this under our belt so that we can move on from it. You are now in a core group. Your core group no longer comes into lifetimes and murders each other, right? You don't. Your core group has moved above that. Still Aralamb speaking. But 5,000 or 6,000 Earth years ago, many young groups were still coming in and having all of that kind of angry, murderous, warlike, right? That's where Earth is changing now, right? That's where it's meant to be changing. That's where things are falling away. Now, the difference is this. If you get murdered or you're the murderer in a lifetime, you would have agreed to those contracts, right? You would have agreed to those contracts, and nobody gets out of the feeling of all of that. You're going to experience it one way or the other. But the suicide is something that your group would not ever want to have, that you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't commit to that because it's not allowed. The suicide, the true suicide. Accidental suicide, that's different. So when you cross back over, you're going to spend as long as it takes to feel every single feeling that everyone in your world has around that suicide. And understand this too, and this is the final thing I'll say on this, Aralamb still speaking. Respectfully, the statistics are that if someone in a family commits suicide, the likelihood that someone of their children or grandchildren or even nieces and nephews will do the same. Should that happen because of your action, now you're attached to all of those as well. This is why I talk to people about the idea that when someone who is very high up in the societal reign of Earth, a movie star, right, or a rock star, or a musician, or a world leader, when those souls commit a suicide, it affects so many souls, right? So they're going to have to stand there in that life review and wait. They're not going to be able to move out into creation here where there's so much learning going on. And it doesn't mean that they're punished. It just means that you have to stand with the action. You've got to stand with the outcomes of the action, because every action, and that action, suicide in that way, it has a real action. Now, one last thing, I'll say this. Aralamb speaking. If you are a 25-year-old young woman and you have terminal cancer and you are, again, you are with your family and you are at the lake house and you probably have 4 or 5 months to live, and your family, and you're in pain, and your family all agree with you that they're going to have this journey with you and that you're going to get medication, and that with your family holding your hand, everyone is on the same page. And they know why you're leaving, and they know why they're a part of it. And they understand that when you take these 2 tablets, it's going to get you out of 3 extra months of pain. And they're singing songs, and it's beautiful at the lake, and everyone is having a glass of wine, and everyone is crying, but they're there with you. That is not suicide, because your whole core group would have agreed, we are going to be part of this with you. We're going to do this with you in this lifetime if we can all get it together to do it with you. Do you see? And the difference is this. When every one of those souls goes through their lifetime review, yes, they will feel the loss, but they're also going to feel the incredible spiritual joy of having shared this phenomenal moment with that loved one, with that soul. Do you see?
Mhm.
Suicide does not allow for that. Does not allow for that.
Let me go to another controversial subject, and that is abortion. So, for example, a lot of people, we're very divided in this country on that particular issue. And at the same time, we hear about pre-birth plans. We hear about people here telling us that they choose their parents ahead of time. So, what is the timeline there? I mean, is it? When does the soul come into the fetus? At what
So
point?
I want to I want to answer this first because that is you're throwing great questions at Aralamb, but I also want to say this. I am a person, I've lived a life, and I don't, how do I want to say this? I am right in the middle of the road. I feel like people's personal decisions are their own, but I also feel like I don't love it, me personally. And it's not because it's not a judgment. I just think, I don't know, I don't love it. I think I'm one of those people right in the middle. It's not about politics for me. It's more, or religion or spirituality even, particularly with what Airlamb's most likely going to say. So I don't sort of condone it. I don't not condone it. And then Aralamb is going to talk to you about it. And some people are not going to like what Aralamb says about it. And that's why I'm saying, I'm trigger warning here, maybe. Anyway, so Airlamb's hand is up here. Airlamb's speaking. So the question about abortion is this, and let me say this to you. Human beings on planet Earth have been ending pregnancies for the whole time that human beings have been on planet Earth. Now, in this timeline on planet Earth, the ending of pregnancies has turned into a sort of a corporate endeavor. That maybe isn't the best thing. However, let me say this, still Aralamb speaking. A soul always chooses its parents. However, you have to think about the free will law. So, your core group, any children that you have had, those souls would have chosen you as the mother already. But you're still carrying free will. So, even if you agreed to have 4 children in the lifetime, and those 4 are in your core group, once you come to the planet and you have the forgetting, you don't remember all of those contracts, your free will is the highest law now. You're in a lifetime with the highest law, which is free will. So you find yourself pregnant. There is this sort of security net, if you will, which says the soul of the new human does not seat, S-E-A-T, seat into the human body, who would be the mother, until approximately the 16th week. The reason that this happens is that that mother has that ability at any time to utilize her free will and determine she doesn't want to do the pregnancy. And sometimes souls will come in immediately, right? If you have determined that the contract says, I'm going to come into my mother's body immediately and she's going to lose me very early in the pregnancy, and that's something she wants to experience. And when that happens, often that same soul will come back in to another pregnancy and go through the whole pregnancy and become a child. The contracts are wide and varied. So if you've contracted with a soul that you're going to have the 4 children, and you end up only having 2 of the children, and that you've got 2 abortions that are before that 16 week, after that, it's likely that a soul would be within that child. That is the organic answer for this. Now, if you were to abort a baby after that 16 week and the soul was in that child, it simply returns directly back to creation, that soul, and has full knowledge of what has happened. You always have the free will to do that. I want to say this to you. It is usually more likely that the souls that you have contracted with, if you contracted to have 4 children, those souls will usually end up in your life. If you have abortions in your life, it is usual that that was something that you wanted to experience, and that the souls that would be your children or not your children don't ever get into the mix there. There will be those souls on earth that will find what I just said to be very difficult. But if you think about it, the free will always is the highest law. So it's this caveat to give that soul of the mother the free will to make that decision, to bring those souls in or not. But usually the children that you determined that you're going to contract with to have as a woman, you'll have those children one way or the other. It tends to be that way. So I'm going to say this. Does that answer the question for you?
It
And I
does.
know that answer is, I know for some people that answer is just,
Difficult, yes.
difficult. And it's why, when Aralamb wanted to put the chapter about suicide in the book, and he also wanted to put the parts about the life cycle of the soul, and he talks about abortion, because I don't make the words, I just sit and type, and he just says things, and he won't let me change any words. I just type what he says. But I said to him, are you sure that you want this piece in there? And he said, this is the whole possibility life cycle of the soul. So it's all in there together. And if you think of it from the standpoint of energy, just the energy and souls, if you think about it from that standpoint, it makes sense scientifically, and it also kind of makes sense spiritually. But if you look at it from just a religious kind of standpoint, then it's hard to, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Those are difficult. You asked some of the most difficult questions.
Yeah, these are interesting topics. They're very thorny. I understand. Can I switch over to mental illness?
Yes.
And obviously, schizophrenia, people hearing voices, hallucinations, that kind of thing. And often, of course, we put them in the madhouse and over time. And today, we don't really know how to deal with it very well. There are medications. We don't quite know what to do with this phenomenon. Some people think that they're not actually mentally ill. It's not as though there's anything organically or anatomically wrong with the brain. It's more that they are more in touch with the other side than many of us are. Oh, could you explain the whole phenomenon of mental illness, including autism and the idea of the, telepathy tapes that have come out recently with the idea that they communicate telepathically? That's all a big puzzle. Could you enlighten us there?
Aralamb's hand is up. Aralamb speaking. So all of the physical disabilities that a soul can come in with, all of the, and I'm going to take the physical disabilities and I'm going to take out autism. I'm going to remove autism from this, taking autism completely away. Any soul who comes in with a diminished mental capacity. So diminished mental capacity. So if you come in with a body and you're in a 30-year-old body, but you have an 8-year-old's mental capacity, that's going to be something that you came in to have that experience, period. You came in to have that experience. You chose it. If you come in with any kind of physical disability, and that includes blindness, hearing, anything physical, whether it's a cystic fibrosis or any of the things that can happen to a soul that would put you in a wheelchair or have you, unable to speak or unable to stand, any of those kinds of disabilities, you would have chosen them. Now, if you have an accident with your organic body and you start off the life completely from baseline normal, still Aralamb speaking, you have an accident and then you're disabled in some way, you would have chosen that experience. You would have chosen that experience. All of the mental illnesses, and I'm going to say that it this way, the manic, the schizophrenic, all of those kinds of illnesses, the schizophrenic illness is something you would have chosen to come in to have experience of. Schizophrenics are not connecting to creation. They're not. They're not connecting to creation. Schizophrenic mind, still Aralamb speaking, the schizophrenic mind is more able to connect with the energies that are close to Earth, right? So they're connecting with energies that may not be seen. They also have the ability often to connect with those energies that I called earlier echoes, the echoes of energy, right? And usually, and very often, they're connecting with sort of the negative echoes around them. So it's as if they become a barometer of all of the different echoing energies that have sort of attached themselves to Earth over the eons of humanity being on Earth. Does that make sense? Still Aralamb speaking. What's happening now for all of those souls that come in with schizophrenia is that all of the energy that's leaving tends to be the negative or the heavier energy. So it's really flaring for them. Where you might wake up in the morning and say, the energy feels heavy today. I feel tired today. I can really feel the earth churning up some negative energy that needs to leave. That's how you might look at that energy. A schizophrenic is going to actually hear, see, and feel what the energy actually is that's leaving. So that puts them in a kind of a whole separate category, but they're not connecting to creation. Now, the autism, that is something that they are more attuned to the higher levels of energy. I'm not saying they're attuned directly, but that telepathy that they have, that extrasensory perception that they have, they're not using their vocals usually, or if they are, it's very kind of distracted. But those souls are some of the souls coming in where they're actually seeing some of the higher energy coming in. So they're more sensitive to the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional energy that's coming in. And that energy is not catching up with everyone all at the same speed. There is also, still Aralamb speaking, there is also the other kind of form of autism and the other diseases that are like it. And even with the autism, although they're connected more to the higher levels of energy, they still would have chosen to come in with that experience. And they would have chosen to come in with that experience for all of those souls in their core around them. Meaning, if you're the parent of an autistic child, it isn't because you are being punished in some way. It's because you wanted to come in and be during the ascension now and have the experience with that child. So understanding, though, that that child is connecting with higher levels of energy differently than the schizophrenic is feeling that lower energy come up. And they're being buffered by it. They're being buffeted by that energy, which is different. Me speaking, does that answer your question? It actually answers a few questions, but...
It sure does. It sure does. Can I skip also to the chapter where you talked about off-Earth beings coming?
Off-world others? Yeah.
Others, yes. Could you tell us about that? I mean, the Niku. So
The Anunnaki? Yeah.
exactly.
So,
And so Zen Charlie, and then the Toshal, and then just the dicing and splicing of human DNA and having plans that the God creator did not agree to. Yeah, could you explain all of that?
so Aralamb's hand is up. So the first thing I'll tell you is this: the creator God, creation, when a new species is going to be created anywhere in this universe that you're all sitting in, that I'm in, when a new species is going to be created and DNA is going to be put together and spliced in any way, that edict, if you will, or the permission to do so, always has to come through the creation. And it does often. So when it's time for a new species or a species to get DNA that brings them up higher in their evolution, it's always coming through the creator God. This is why you have the Adam and Eve, right? You have the Adam and Eve on Earth. So in Earth's case, the Anunnaki were a race. The Toshal are actually, I call them Toshal, still Aralamb speaking. You might know them as the Pleiadians or the Tall Whites. So originally the Senshali are a species, and they come actually from Andromeda. So they're very highly technical. The Anunnaki, they came to the planet when really the Earthlings, if you will, were savanna dwellers. And there are those who are now finding this information out. So you can look into this more deeply. They wanted to come here and mine for materials and resources on Earth, but they didn't want to do the heavy lifting. They didn't want to do the work. So they kept trying to, in secret, without the Creator God's permission. They didn't get permission. They kept trying to put DNA together with the humanoids that were on the planet to come up with a humanoid that was smart enough to do work, but didn't become so sentient that suddenly a soul would be given to them. Because the moment that a new species on a planet becomes sentient enough to be aware of itself, immediately it shows up as a place where souls can incarnate to. It shows up as a new place to incarnate to. So these two species, the Anunnaki and the Senshali, they kept trying to make a humanoid that was just below the threshold. And then finally, they got frustrated. So they said, we don't care. Nobody's going to know. And they made the species that you are, that Melissa is, or at least the early version. But immediately the light went on here in creation, and souls started to flood into those new beings. When that happened, the creator sees that immediately. Who is this? Who are these? This new species. There are souls going in here. This isn't anything that still Aralamb speaking, I, the creator God, the creation of the universe, I didn't okay this, right? So the creator God goes to the Pleiadians, the Tall Whites, and says, you need to go to this planet and find out what's going on. So the Pleiadians always show up sort of as what Melissa would call the white hats, right? They show up to fix things. When they showed up, they realized what had happened. So they started to try to sort of bring humanoids to an even higher level that would make you much more capable of artistic thinking, creative thinking, ingenuity, the ability to support yourselves without these other species being in the mix. So the tall whites came in and they started splicing the DNA in. That DNA is what is going to give you all sort of the way to get through this ascension. It's also what has given Earthlings now the ability to have technology, right? You're getting ready to be spacefaring. So the other possibility and the other problem that happened there was that the creator God said to the Anunnaki and the Senshali, now you're in a covenant. You have to take care of this species, right? You're going to have to take care of them for eons of time. You're going to give them writing. You're going to give them society. You're going to teach them how to take care of themselves. You're going to give them agriculture and art. You have to grow them up now because you made them without my permission. So they got into a covenant. And in the book, I read about the covenant. So God, if you will, the universal God, put them in this covenant and said, you have to stay here and take care of the species. You're not to turn them into slaves. You're not to take advantage of them. You're not to mate with them. You're not to do any of those things. Once the tall whites left, they did none of those things. They did not hold to the covenant. In the year of 1963 Earth time, the covenant ended. This is why suddenly Earth finds itself in this steep trajectory. It's also why in the next 9.5 to 10 Earth years, off-world species, mainly the Pleiadians, are going to be standing on Earth. Everyone will know it. It won't be some project of the government. It won't be fake. It'll be true. They'll be here because you all, as species sitting there, you all are about to get freed from all of that. The knowledge is coming in. You're going to understand who you are in the universe and how populated with other beings the universe is, so that energy, free energy, can come to the planet. The planet can be cleaned up. The Pleiadians are going to help with this. But those two original species that started the race, they were bad actors, if you will. They weren't meant to do that. They didn't have humanoids on Earth would have stayed savanna dwellers well past the year that you're sitting in now. Earth was meant to stay pristine for a very long time. So does that answer the question for you?
I think it does. Thank you. Can I ask you, everything that's going on in this country politically and to a lesser extent across the world, how do you explain all of that? Is that part of sort of the muck coming to the surface so we can clean things up? Or is this sort of the last sort of gasp of this sort of very controlling class that you've been talking about, and that these nefarious beings sort of still letting go of their control? I mean, so I'm not expressing that very well, but I think you get my point.
Aralamb's hand is up. Aralamb speaking. It isn't the last gasp. So it isn't them at this point fighting to stay in control. It is literally the idea that the universal creator God is now allowing all, and we talked about this is bringing it all the way to the beginning, allowing the fourth, fifth, and sixth density energies to come down upon Earth, which is pulling Earth. Earth is bringing the three-dimensional with it, but everything has to fall away. The way that society has been run has to fall away. Governments are crumbling and falling away to a certain degree. Now, it doesn't mean that everything is going to crumble, but everything is reshaping. The other thing that you're seeing politically in every country, still Aralamb speaking, you're seeing it politically, you're seeing it with monetary, you're also seeing it with everything that is hidden. And what human beings are seeing now is that everything that's been hidden, war, slavery, money, right? Everything nefarious, even energetically, because humanoids are now beginning to understand the power of energy. Everything in your governments, at this point in your governments, there are no right and wrong. It's all about being tilled. It's as if the soil of the earth, the soil of the spiritual earth, the energetic, it all has to be tilled up. It's all coming up and moving away. It isn't going to be a kind of an Armageddon where everything ends. The covenant suggested to the off-world species they were not allowed to burn the planet down before they left. But this is the other part of it. Still Aralamb speaking. When that covenant ended in 1963 Earth time, they're all being driven off the planet. When I say they, I mean all of the hidden species, all of those that have been in control, all of those who have been posing as humans but are not humans. Everyone is being forced off the planet because humans, everyone here, Melissa, you are meant to have possession of your planet in the real way that it's meant to be had. Clean, no slavery, environmentally sound, food security, right? Free energy, spacefaring. The other part of this is that there are two planets that, and this is spreading out a bit, the 20-year mark, there are two planets within 4 and 15 light years of Earth that ultimately will be brought into what's called the Earth system, meaning that there will be 3 planets that will be Earth systems, so that your species can spread out, right? And have the clean environment and step out into the universe as very young species. And also, your species is interesting to the other off-world species because of the way that you came into being, right? You were this strange mixture that wasn't really meant to happen. The tall white Pleiadians came in, the Tashal came in and added some of their most highly lauded genetics to you. So you are truly, as humans, as your organics and your brain works, you are truly this interesting, different kind of species. So there is a lot of interest in you sort of making it through this ascension.
As far as what's happening in the country and around the world politically, that is obviously, very dismaying to many people. Is there an end to this? Will it sort of end up working out for itself? It sounds as though that's the basic message that you're conveying.
Aralamb speaking. It is going to work itself all out. It is going to have a kind of a 2-level process. There are at least 3 to 4 more years of this things coming into the light. It's as if the lights have to be turned on in the basement of the world. The lights have all come on in the basement of the world, and all of you are seeing everything dark is crawling up out of the basement and shaking itself off, and you're all standing and seeing it, and then it's leaving the planet energetically, or it's leaving the planet through the death of whatever the society or the organization or the government or the company or the people. It's all having to be shaken off. However, when the off-world species, the Pleiadians first, come in the first 2 years of them being present on Earth, Earth is going to very quickly have free, clean energy, right? Earth is very quickly going to have its medical system completely transformed. Most of the species off-world, they do not cut into their bodies to heal them at all. They don't use any of that for healing. It's all frequency, right? It's all frequency. It's all energetic. So all of these things, food production will be transformed. All of it is going to be transformed very, very quickly. And many of you listening will be alive to see it. Many of you listening will be alive to see it.
What about global warming and all the damage that's been done? Will that be repaired?
Aralamb speaking. Absolutely. And when you say repaired, it's more like a rejuvenation. So everything that has been done to the planet can be undone very, very quickly, particularly once free energy happens. Because once that happens, everyone, everywhere on the face of the planet will suddenly be able to not have to have a disposable kind of world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Disposable world will go away. And that's going to be quick. It's going to be fast.
We're switching subjects dramatically here. Can you tell us?
Look at this. Do I need my seatbelt? She's like, get your speed scarf out. We're changing.
Controversial in the ones that I've been asking you. Can you tell us more about twin flames and their mission here?
Okay, Aralamb speaking. Well, first, I want to say this. This is interesting because this is me speaking. So I have a lot of people will come into a session and they'll say, is someone my soulmate? Or you talk about the twin flames. And I always say to Aralamb, because I feel like Aralamb is not very romantic when it comes to the twin flame or the soulmate. He just isn't. And I always think, oh no, I hope he's not going to rain on their parade here. So I'm gonna say trigger warning right up front. Okay, so Aralamb speaking. My fine protege here always says to me to sort of say this in a way that doesn't, as she says, strip the romance from it. So the twin flame, what you're talking about, the twin flame or the soul mate, it is real, but it is not real in that you're sharing the same soul. Every soul is sovereign. So what does happen over time, when I say every soul is sovereign, souls at this point in the universe, no souls are sort of having 8 or 10 different lifetimes at the same time. There's a belief in this, but it's not happening in this universe now because the souls that are sort of incarnating now into this universe, the universe itself is about 75% of the way through its lifetime arc, the universe. So every soul in the universe now has been through many of the very base level lessons. Now, and on Earth particularly. So when you're talking about a twin soul or a soul mate, these are going to be souls that, whether they're in each other's core group or not, they will, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of incarnations, choose over and over, not necessarily to be romantically linked, but to always come into each other's lifetime arc in some way. So that being said, your romantic partner could be a twin soul for you. This won't be a twin where you're hooked forever because souls are sovereign to creation. But what it does mean is that you will choose over thousands sometimes of lifetimes to come in at least to be in relationship in a lifetime. It doesn't always have to be romantic. You could have a soul mate that you contract with over and over and over who comes in as a best friend or who comes in as a sibling. That soul and you will come in together with core sister groups, and you'll always be together in some very lovely, loving way. Often it can be romantic, but it doesn't have to be. You could have a soul that comes in as your mother 100 lifetimes in a row because you love the experience. Whenever you're going to go into a lifetime that's considered a vacation lifetime, you and another core group, a sister core group or a sibling core group, might come in and have one big long lifetime together where there are many children and everyone loves each other and there's very few challenges. Some of those souls might be your twin souls, right? Or your soul mates. The soul mate on Earth is often looked at as that loved one. But the interesting thing is that most Earthlings at this point will have more than one romantic soul mate, especially if you lose a soulmate, if you lose that loved one in the middle or 3/4 of the way through your life, and then suddenly another soul comes in and you feel so connected and you think, but this person must have to be a soul mate, and likely they are. So I hope that explains that for you. So I want to say, I want to give Aralamb credit there because usually he really destroys the romantic part of it. And he didn't that time. He at least let that part stay because people think, I mean, and here's the thing though, and I'll say this to you, and I see this in sessions all the time. Those souls, anybody listening, if you have some person in your life and you just think it could be a grandchild, it could be your lover, it could be your sister, it could have been your father, whoever it is, it could be your friend. If you are looking into the face of that soul and you think, I am so, you know what I mean when I go, ooh, it's like somebody that you just feel. You feel them, they feel you. It's deep, right? It's very likely, yes, that this is a soul that you travel with a lot, that you choose to travel with, even if they're not in your core group. Best friends often will literally come into lifetimes where you'll have 2 or 3 core groups of souls that are all like spread out, but they'll all go in together. That's how souls, core groups are enmeshed together, right? So if you have a best friend your whole life and you think this person has to be a big deal in my spiritual soul kind of group, they are. They absolutely are. Like they are, because otherwise you wouldn't feel that way at all. And then remember on the other side of that, still me talking, the people that are the hardest for you in your lifetime, those are usually the souls. Like if you have a family member that just has dragged you through the bejesus, those are usually the souls too that you're most in love with generally, like in the group. Those will be the ones that'll come in and they'll agree to really, really kind of beat you up so that you'll have that lesson. It's terrible, but it's true. Well, it's not terrible, but you know what I mean. It's hard, but it's true.
We're almost out of
I
time.
know, right? We've been talking.
I can hardly believe the time has gone by so fast, but just as quickly as you can, because I have a couple of other questions too. Can you talk about the phenomenon of possession?
Okay, so Airlamb's hand is up here. This is a good question. I'm saying this is a good question. Airlamb's hand is up here. Angie, this is interesting because you're bringing again a question that's bringing us all the way back to the beginning. So, around the planet, there are all kinds of energies. There are also all kinds of energies that are very attached and very old energies attached to much of what has been buried and hidden on Earth. Now, usually a kind of what you would call a possession this isn't going to be a soul or a true thinking entity possessing another soul. But what it will be is a lot of very dark energy sort of getting with that soul and that soul being open to it, right? You're not going to be possessed by seriously powerful dark energy unless you allow it to happen. And one of the best ways to allow that into your world is to be working with either yourself or others who are working with that very dark, old, ancient energy, right? When someone says, still Aralamb speaking, let's do some kind of a seance together, and let's do it in such a way that we can call in the essence of or the energy of some mass murdering ancient Egyptian pharaoh. Well, if you and your group of people are going to be opening yourself to the deepest, darkest levels of energy that the planet has been holding for thousands of years, you're making an opening for all of that energy to come in and make itself known and expressed through your soul. So that's the way that possession works, because it changes you, right? It changes you. And you're magnetizing it to yourself on purpose. You're using your intention to do it, to bring it in. Possession is usually never spontaneous. That soul has to have put itself in some kind of an experience or some kind of close proximity to that deep, deep, dark energy. This is one of the reasons why Melissa, when she was so young, had a physical, when you read in the book, she's having this physical aversion to what she's realizing. She's physically having an aversion to that. And that's what kept her, me, her aunt, and the energy of protection, because she asked for it. And understand this, had Melissa simply stayed in fear and not asked for the help, if she had not physically asked for the assistance, I could not have done anything for her because of free will. So does that answer that question, that possession question? Do you get what he's saying there? It's almost like it's almost as simple as, oh, you can't open yourself to these things. And it's like, for me now, and my husband knows this about me, I cannot watch like slasher films. Like, people get excited and they love to watch like, slasher films, like films, Freddy Krueger and the Halloweens and all that. And even though I know it's not real, those things carry energy. They carry energy. And for me, I can't have that. I can't have it. I cannot have it. I can't watch movies where people are just killing each other. I can't have the energy because I'm too like a sponge if I'm not careful. I can't have it. So it's so powerful. People don't realize how powerful it is, but it is. It's really powerful.
I'm so glad that you have this wonderful relationship with Aralamb. And some of us would be interested in having a relationship, more of an overt relationship with our own spirit guides. How can we get to know them better? How can we invite them into our lives? And how can we be sure that we are actually contacting our own spirit guide?
Right. So I'm going to answer this. So for me, the way, and this is interesting. So in sessions, very often, people's guides will show up, and they really show up like with a name, like, they show up. The beautiful thing I can say about this is that right now, if you're on planet Earth right now, this is literally the best time to be here as far as sort of understanding and feeling what creation is, being in touch with your guide. And here's the thing, the way that I started with it, of course, I had this experience happen, but really, understanding that you have assistance. That's the big thing, because your guide, no matter who you are sitting there, your guide can't do anything to you or for you, can't do anything to you or for you unless you specifically ask. But here's the thing I'll always say to you. If you are trying to connect with your guide, you always need to be connecting with your guide, saying something like this. You could say, creation, it's me, Angie. I know that you're there, my guide. I know that you're there. You're there at the 89th level. Make yourself known to me in some way that's going to be comfortable for me. Like, you can start off in that way. You can also, see somebody that does work like me, or someone else that that does work like me. And the chances are pretty good right now in history that your guide very well may show up with a name and the whole thing. But it's really about understanding that you're not alone and that you are so powerful in your life, so that if you turn your attention to your guide and say, hey, I know you're there at the 89th level of creation. I know I have a connection with you. Give me some kind of input about what your name is. Also, I would love it. I'm having this issue. I would love it if you could send me some help, if you could direct me in the right direction, if you could start to move in my life in some way through creation that's going to help me, because that's why Aralamb is here, right? And the funny thing is, too, is even at this juncture with Aralamb, if I'm going to do something stupid, I try not to, but if I'm going to do something stupid, or I'm walking too fast and not looking where I'm going and I twist my ankle, you would think that I could say to him, why didn't you warn me? And he'd say, I can't stop you from, living your life. Like, you're doing what you're doing, right? I can only be here to help you when you want help. And right then you didn't want help. You were in a hurry. You weren't paying attention. You weren't asking me for help, so it's like, he's never given me the lottery tickets. I guess that's what I'm saying. So that would be the way to connect. I mean, and again, working with people too, to sort of connect is a good way as well, is a good way as well.
There's whisperings that we all hear, and
Yes.
sometimes we don't. Is that our spirit guide? Is that our angel? Is that our higher self? Is it a combination of all of them?
So you are your higher self. That idea that and when people say, I want to connect to my higher self, your higher self is seated right here in the center of your heart chakra, right? What you're feeling when you have a spiritual experience, what you're feeling is your higher self's connection to creation, right? Because you're always connected. That's the other thing. People don't realize that you can sort of ignore the fact that you're connected to creation, but you're always connected. You can always refocus and realize, I'm connected to creation. So I can be at a much higher level than I am right now, no matter what my day looks like. I always can be connected. But the whisperings, yes, that's going to be your intuition for sure. And the other thing is this, and I'll kind of end with this. When I sit down to do this work, when I came in here and I open my doors, and Aralamb is standing here, and there's 89th level creation. I can put my hand in just a little bit, but I don't go too far. I don't ask any questions. I do this work as if I'm 6 years old. I leave my left brain out in the hall. I don't ask, how does this work? Is it going to work today? Do I have to worry about this? Who's going to show up? I don't do any. I have to just be completely not asking any questions. I don't look for proof, because the minute you start looking for proof around your gifts or proof around the fact that you're connected to the creator God, the minute you start asking those questions, you're slamming the door, because your left brain's coming in and saying, oh, Angie, don't be silly. Don't be silly. What are you talking about? Right? Let's be reasonable. That's what your left brain says to you. You have to say, hey, thank you for keeping me safe, while I'm driving to get groceries, but go sit down over there, because now I'm connected to creation, and I want to feel that. It's so simple, but you have to you got to turn off the voice that tells you you're full of it. You've got to. And the minute you do that, all of a sudden you're swimming in that energy. You're just sitting in it. You're not pulling, you're not trying to find it. It's just, you're sitting in that energy. And it's really, everybody's waking up to that. And that's what my whole work is. That's what my whole work is.
Finally, now, what parting words would you leave for our audience today?
So Aralamb's hand is up here. Aralamb's speaking. I would like to thank all of you for listening to me today and having the wonderful questions. And let me say this to you. The very best thing that you all can do today and from every day forward, if you don't take in any of this information, take this in. Do not live in fear, regardless of what you think is going on in the world. Do not live in fear. Everything that is happening, regardless of where you stand or where you live, everything that's happening now has to happen. Everything has to come up, all of the turmoil, everything has to happen in order that the ascension continue. And it will get better. It will get better, but it all has to come up. So don't live in fear. Hold on to all of the small things in your world that you know are beautiful, because you're connected to creation, as Melissa said. You can't be disconnected from creation. No one can take it from you. No one can take it from you. No one can take it from you. So do not live in fear. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to say this. I would say the same thing. I would say the same thing. And thank you. Thank you so much for having us both. I have enjoyed this a ton. I've enjoyed it a ton. And if you ever want to do it again, let me know, because you guys, you're so intelligent. Yeah.
Thank you. I definitely have you back, because there's still so many questions, and I wasn't questions.
Yeah. But I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And for me, and it's how I started this by saying, this is the thing that I do. So it's like all of the information. That's why when you first got a hold of me, you said, would you like to speak? And I thought, I'll speak a little, but I'd rather have Aralamb speak, because really it's all about I have some good input here and there, but really it's, and also anybody who wants my story and doesn't want to buy a book, because you do not have to, go to my YouTube channel and I'm reading the book. I've got the first 7 or 8 chapters. I'm reading it for free. So it's just me reading it. So you can listen to it for free.
And do you do sessions with individuals as
I
well?
do. Yeah. My website is melissagatesperry.com, and it's super simple. It's the most low tech thing. It's just me, my smiling face, and then it tells you how to get set up. And I do a 90-minute session. Aralamb is always there. It's always a ton of information, and it's always a ton of information that is really pertinent to the life you're in right now, and how to use your gifts, and what your gifts are, and what your spiritual specialty most likely is. And often people's guides show up. So that's really good too. Because once you kind of get more information about you and why you're sitting here, why am I on the planet, right? It's really helpful for people. It is. So, but if you don't want to do that, go to my website, go to YouTube. You can hear, and do that way.
Well, Melissa, I can't thank you enough. It's been absolutely fascinating. That 2 hours is just sped by, one of the
I
fastest
know, right? I know.
I've had. As you're just so phenomenal with your delivery. And Aralamb is as well. It's been absolutely
Awesome.
so thank you
Awesome.
again. I will individually reach out.
Yes. Get a hold of me. Thank you all for having us. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it so much.
We'll
I
have
see you up there, David.
We'll have you back.
David Lamont.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Take care. Take care. Bye bye now. Bye bye.